Inside a metal works facility, a worker was struck in the face when a metal workpiece was violently ejected from a CNC machine. The incident occurred because the operator began testing the machine without first closing the protective door. This incident clearly demonstrates the extreme dangers of operating CNC equipment without safety enclosures in place. CNC machines must never be run with doors open, as high-speed rotating components can launch materials with tremendous force. Operators must always confirm guards and interlocks are engaged before starting any cycle. An appropriate face protection should be worn at all times to prevent serious injuries. At a garbage processing facility, a forklift accidentally struck a worker while driving around a tall stack of compressed garbage cubes that block the operator's forward visibility. Fortunately, another worker nearby witnessed the incident and immediately alerted the operator, preventing further injury. This incident clearly demonstrates the dangers of limited visibility around tall loads and workers sharing travel paths with mobile equipment. Forklift operators must maintain clear sightlines or travel in reverse when loads obstruct forward view, and spotters should be used in blind areas. Pedestrian walkways must be clearly marked and separated from equipment routes, and workers should remain alert when operating near moving machinery. Inside a warehouse, a forklift tipped over while lifting a stacked load of beer onto a top storage shelf, smashing the cases and ejecting the operator from the vehicle. The incident occurred when a new forklift operator raised the load too high without fully understanding how to control the machine's stability. This incident clearly demonstrates the serious dangers of improper forklift operation and lifting loads beyond safe height and balance limits. Operators must be properly trained and certified before handling elevated loads, and forklifts should never lift materials higher than necessary for placement. Loads must be kept stable and within rated capacity, and seat belts must always be worn to prevent ejection during tip-overs. Inside a local workshop, a man was violently struck by a moving CNC machine component, causing him to be thrown to the ground and suffer a broken arm. The impact happened while he was working close to the machine during operation. This incident clearly demonstrates the dangers of standing too close to active CNC equipment and failing to maintain safe working distances. CNC machines can move suddenly and with great force, especially during automated cycles. Operators must remain outside designated danger zones while machines are running, and emergency stop controls must be readily accessible. Proper training, guarding, and situational awareness are essential to prevent serious impact injuries. At a construction site, a forklift tipped forward while lifting a large jackhammer assembly from a truck bed, snapping its forks as the machine lost balance. The incident occurred as the operator attempted to lower and position the heavy load, which shifted beyond the forklift's stability limits. This incident clearly demonstrates the catastrophic risks of exceeding forklift load capacity and lifting oversized equipment without proper weight distribution. Forklift operators must verify load weights and centers of gravity before lifting, especially when handling long or irregular assemblies. Attachments and forks must be rated for the load, and heavy equipment should be moved using appropriate lifting machinery. At a roadside vulcanizing shop, a passing civilian was blasted by a tire explosion while it was being inflated in the middle of the street. The man had stopped nearby out of curiosity when the overpressurized tire suddenly ruptured, sending debris and shockwaves into the surrounding area. Fortunately, he was able to walk away, though he was left limping. This incident clearly demonstrates the extreme dangers of inflating tires in public spaces without protective barriers. Tires store enormous energy under pressure and can explode violently without warning. Tire inflation must be performed using safety cages or remote airlines, and the public must be kept well clear of the blast zone. Inside a metal works facility, a worker was dragged backward and nearly had his feet crushed when a crane began lifting stacked metal discs before they were fully secured. The worker was still positioning the load when the crane moved prematurely, pulling him off balance as the heavy discs shifted. This incident clearly demonstrates the extreme dangers of premature crane movement and workers remaining in contact with loads during lifting operations. Crane lifts must never begin until rigging is complete and all personnel are clear of the load. Workers should never hold or stand against materials being lifted, and clear communication between crane operators and ground crews is essential. Inside a welding shop, a worker had his feet crushed when a short metal pole being guided by an overhead crane was set down directly on them. The worker had been walking alongside the suspended pole, guiding it into position just inches above the floor, and failed to notice that his feet were directly beneath the load as it was lowered. This incident clearly demonstrates the serious dangers of standing under suspended loads and guiding materials without maintaining proper foot placement. Workers must never position any part of their body beneath loads being lowered, even at low heights. Inside a metal beam warehouse, a worker narrowly avoided being crushed when a metal beam he was guiding with an overhead crane suddenly fell to the ground. The worker had been standing nearby after securing and helping guide the beam when a failure in the crane's lifting mechanism caused the heavy load to drop unexpectedly. This incident clearly demonstrates the extreme dangers of standing near suspended loads, even when guiding or securing them. Overhead crane mechanisms can fail without warning, and workers must maintain a safe distance from all suspended materials. Loads should always be fully secured, and lifting equipment must be regularly inspected and maintained. Inside a welding facility, a worker was pinned and crushed between two large, vertically positioned metal beams when one of them suddenly tipped over. The worker had been standing between the beams, unaware of the instability, and had no warning before the heavy structure fell. This incident clearly demonstrates the extreme dangers of standing near unsecured vertical loads, especially freshly welded or incompletely stabilized materials. Heavy beams can shift unexpectedly, creating immediate crush hazards. Workers must ensure all vertical elements are properly braced or supported before approaching, and exclusion zones must be enforced around unstable or recently welded structures. At a port, a worker was violently whipped by a rope when a cargo ship began moving away while still tethered to an anchor point. The worker had been standing nearby, observing the ship, when the tensioned rope unexpectedly snapped. Surprisingly, he was able to regain his balance and walk away unharmed. This incident clearly demonstrates the extreme hazards of standing near tension lines and ropes under heavy load. Ropes connected to ships, cranes, or other moving equipment can store enormous energy and release it suddenly, creating life-threatening whip effects. Awareness, barriers, and communication are critical to preventing struck-by injuries in port operations. At a roadside automotive shop, a worker accidentally struck a customer in the groin while hammering on a damaged tire rim. The worker had been trying to reshape the rim, and its owner was observing nearby when a miscontrolled swing of the hammer caused the injury. This incident clearly demonstrates the dangers of performing metalworking tasks near bystanders. Workers must always ensure a clear area around themselves when using hand tools, particularly when swinging or striking. Protective barriers, proper tool control, and maintaining safe distances from others are essential to prevent accidental injuries.